Hi, Abraham. Is it possible or even desirable for the human personality to step aside and allow the God Self to shine through at all times?
Seems like it would be the ultimate, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that. In one of the tapes, someone asked, is it the goal for the Abraham energy to keep coming through all the time? And Abraham said yes. And I thought, well, what does that say about Esther? You know, is it important? Is it possible for us to keep our humanness and allow God to shine through, or does the humanness have to step aside?
Very good question. Humans do not have to step aside, but this is the easiest way for you to hear this. What consciousness really is perspective. So when you talk about God Force or God Self, that's perspective. That's that non-physical perspective from the vantage point where all is well. Now, Esther, or you, in your physicalness, you also hold a perspective. And your perspective as a physical being on the leading edge of thought is more detailed. It's more specific. It's more involved in the nitty-gritty. In other words, your non-physical perspective is a perspective of understanding of the laws, an understanding of well-being, an understanding of the greater scheme of things, while your human perspective, while it can know all of that, is more involved in this leading-edge thought. It's, as you are here in your physical, you're out here on the leading edge, and you have what we call an inner being, source energy that you can summon. Your inner being has an inner being, who has an inner being, who has an inner being, who has an inner being. And this whole stream of consciousness is what we call all that is. It's what some call God. It's what we refer to, or you refer to, as God Force. And it's not possible or necessary at all to separate the toe bone's connected to the foot bone's connected to the knee bone. In other words, it's all one continuum of consciousness. But there are different perspectives within the consciousness, and each of those perspectives has its place and value. People will say to Esther, we think it's wonderful that you sacrifice so much of your time and allow Abraham to speak through you. And Esther will say, it is truly not a sacrifice, because when Abraham speaks through me, I am not less than, I'm not off in a corner somewhere, I am more than. She can feel that it is an expansion of consciousness. But we know, in specific response to your question, that if Esther were to decide that she would summon Abraham at all times in her life, that she would see this world only through Abraham's eyes, she would lose the specifics of the contrast that she has come forth to live. And that even though it would be a nice experience, and even though we are appreciative of the venting, and even though you may benefit from the clarity that flows through her, Esther's life would be less than it can be with the mix of her perspective. Her perspective does matter. Your physical perspective, and so that question sort of comes from a mass consciousness belief that goes something like, well, the non-physical is superior, and so if I have access to the non-physical, then shouldn't I be in that space more of the time? And we say, there you go again, underestimating the value of your leading-edge physical human, very specific perspective, you see.
One follow-up, if I might. The other night we were talking about Jesus, and Esther said that her understanding was that Jesus was indeed aligned with his source energy, but then he got involved with the human perspective, which led to his crucifixion. So,
in other words, even one like Jesus, and there have been many like him, even one like Jesus did not maintain his non-physical perspective continuously.
Right. So there was not a point where the Christ just popped in and that was the end of the human, and the Christ just lived on.
He was as you are, connected or not, depending upon what he was giving his attention to.
So he kind of went in and out.
But he was predominantly, in time, very well connected to Source.
Mm-hmm.
But like many humans, began pushing against.
has there ever been anyone, such as those called avatars, who basically the humanness just falls away and their continual expression of divinity without interruption?
Your dog.
Well, this I know.
The beasts do it predominantly, and there are physical beings. You usually label them with tremendous handicaps. In other words, they usually come forth and you call them retarded or you give them some label like that, but there are many physical beings that are pure, positive, non-physical energy and perspective flowing through.
Well, I've thought of that, and I thought, well, if my dog is an avatar and if certain retarded people are avatars, then is that experience, I guess you called it earlier, is that superior to ours? And I guess your answer was that it's all different perspectives, but would that make me want to come back as my dog next time?
No, because from your non-physical perspective, you are a teacher to the core of your being, and you appreciate their willingness to come forth in those experiences to give you the contrasts that help you to define. In other words, it's very difficult to, in the first place, understand what anybody else's experience is.
Right.
You really, there aren't enough words in the world to really understand what anybody else is living. And physical beings work very hard. They want things to be the same. They want people to think the same. You work rather hard at that, but you will never win that battle because from non-physical, the diversity is the most beneficial part of the game.
So are all beasts in that state of pure positive expression all the time, unless they've been influenced?
Usually they are. The beasts in the wild certainly are. The domesticated beasts tend to take upon human characteristics, and they are very responsive. In other words, they do love your approval, and so they tend to act like you the more they are around you. But the beasts of your planet provide a very wonderful basis for all of you, because they continue to summon the pure positive energy, and they make it more accessible to you, sort of like a satellite dish can bring a signal closer for you to receive.
Right. So if we're told in the Bible that we are the children of God and little less than angels, then why is it that a beast would be in its God state more consistently than I would?
If anyone tells you that as physical beings you are less than angels, they are not understanding the greater scheme of things. They have some motive that
well,
you do
I was
not
just
understand.
quoting from the Bible. In other words, if it says you're little less, let's say we are angelic, so then if we are angelic, then why would a dog be experiencing God more than I would?
Well, we do not say that in your contrast or in your including of vibrations that don't allow the fullness of who you are in this moment, that you are any less godlike than your dog. In other words, we would prefer, rather than saying he is an angel and you are not because he is connected and you are not, we would prefer to say he is connected and you are not allowing your full connection because in your superior mental capacity you have learned to evaluate more things of a vibrational nature that do not allow you the purity of thought. He thinks fewer thoughts, therefore it is less likely that he will get into that conflict. But it is also less likely that he will project any thought or be a deliberate creator as you have intended to be. You've come forth as two different entities with two different reasons for being that enhance the experience of each other.
And so through us having the capacity to make choices that animals don't, we exercise another leading edge of choice that animals don't get to exercise.
Perfectly stated. And that's why we said to you, your beast is more like your inner being, because, and we are not diminishing our ability, it's going to sound like it to you, but your inner being is more general. In other words, your inner being knows less about your life than you do. Your inner being knows that all is well, but you know where the car keys are. You see what we're getting at? And a blending of the two perspectives makes for a very good experience. And it doesn't make you smarter than your inner being. It means the focus of your vantage points is different. And the mixture of the whole makes for a remarkably delicious experience for all.
I hear. Okay, thank you very much.
Very, very good. Yes, come forward one row.